And that means it's time for Good Policies with Mike Barrett in the studio from Barrett Insurance. Hi, Mike.
Good morning. Yeah, Big Tom's Diner fan. It's if you think about it, it's the song that I know the most lyrics to. Da, 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 da. No, never mind. Never mind.
It's called an earbug. You're going to be doing it all day long.
There you go.
All right, so I want to bring up something here.
Yes, sir.
First off, folks, when we talk with Mike, we talk about the insurance industry, and there are so many ins, outs, sideways about it.
Yes.
You want to stay in constant communication and have a conversation with your insurance agent. So there's a lot of development going on here. It's come about over the last couple of years with like these Airbnbs and things like that, right?
Sure, yeah.
All right. So up in my neck of the woods, there's actually a fair amount of development going on. The stretch of 114, it didn't have a lot of domiciles on it.
Yeah.
Now it does. There was a lot of empty houses. Okay?
Yeah. Now a lot of Airbnb houses.
So we've got the Dirt Church up on 114 there, right by the cemetery, okay?
Yep.
And across the street from that, there's a house. And they have been working on this house for easily a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
They raised the house up.
Nice.
They dug out underneath it.
Brought some new life into it. That's great.
Yeah. And it was interesting watching this, okay, all up on the house jacks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They poured a foundation. They let it cure. They set the house back down on it. That sounds to me like a change in occupancy.
It certainly could be.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking either that or somebody who's just decided to upgrade the house said, we need a basement.
Yeah.
So when something like this goes on, when a house does change ownership or at least residence, how's that all work out with insurance?
Yeah, it's pretty crucial to make sure that your insurance is keeping up with the change in times. Let's start as basic as maybe they just made a change like that to improve upon the house. That's great. Make sure your insurance knows you're doing it. Maybe you need to be aware of different types of endorsements available for a house under renovation, for maybe theft of building materials and things like that. So that's kind of a different animal for a different day, but worthy of just throwing it out there now. But really, for change of occupancy, it can run the gamut, Jeff, right? It can be mom and dad have passed away, and the family doesn't know what to do with the house, so grandson number 4 is going to live in the house now. Now, in the eyes of the family, grandson number 4 is not renting the house, right? It's a family house, and they're just living there. That's correct for you, but for the eyes of insurance, the occupancy of the home as defined by the homeowner policy has definitely changed. The homeowner policy is intended to be for owner-occupied primary or secondary occupancy, all right? So if it's not owner-occupied, either primary or secondary, it shouldn't be in a homeowner policy. And a lot of times, we don't see that change when something like this happens, where maybe, grandson number 4 is living in... Grandson number 4 must have done something really good to get that deal, because number 1, 2, and 3 missed out, and 5, 6, and 7 are on their own. But number 4 got it. But it happens. And, that's a rental situation. Through and through, regardless of whether you call it a rental situation or not, it's a non-owner-occupied residence, which for our world would just be a rental type situation. And it bears in mind that you got to change the policy to like a dwelling fire policy, a landlord type policy. Think about it. Even though they're not paying rent, maybe there could come a time where you need to evict them. Things haven't gone so well. It's time to get them out. Well, now, if it's not in the right policy, you could be missing out on opportunities like personal injury protection, which could protect you if it gets litigious with saying, hey, you unfairly evicted me from this property. I'm suing you now. There's a million and one examples I could give this morning as to why that's so crucial. But other little simple variables, Jeff, too, like mom and dad are planning for the ultimate end. They're still alive, but they want to make sure that the house and their property doesn't end up in probate. What do? They create a life lease listing their child or children or other heirs as the owners of the house. Even that really should require some type of conversation with your insurance. Saying, look, son 1, daughter 1, and the youngest son all have an ownership interest in this house now. We should be listed as the children as additional insured under that, so that when the time comes that mom and dad have passed, the additional insureds have the ability to work on the policy.
Okay, something very similar to that example happened in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wasn't the property owner. I was a renter on a property. I rented this upstairs apartment from a couple for 17 years.
Wow.
Longest I lived anywhere.
Yeah.
And
that was common law rental.
Yeah, by far. But sadly, Mr. Blodgett passed away, and then a year or two after that, So did Mrs. Blodgett.
Uh-huh.
They were just like grandparents to me. But anyways, the house was then deeded to her son. Her son was in a health condition that he couldn't move over here.
Sure.
So then his son moved into the house. This the kind of thing we're talking about?
Yeah.
And obviously having a rental in that same unit it impacts your insurance.
Exactly, because if that was a two-unit house with the owners occupying it, it was most likely in a regular homeowner program because you can have up to a 4-unit property with most companies. So you could have a 4-unit building, live in one, and rent the other 3 out, still have a regular homeowner policy with most companies. So, but now that Junior has taken over the house, that would certainly change it up where a dwelling fire or a business owner's policy or something else has to happen. And there's 2 big reasons to think about this, right? Number one, insurable interest. All right. At the time of loss, if you do nothing to the policy and mom and dad's homeowner policy is still in place and they have both since passed and so many things have changed and a loss occurs, whose name is going to be on the claims payments? Is the claim going to be covered? Was it something that you failed to mention that gives the company a leg to stand on to deny the claim, which I don't foresee that being a very strong case. Most companies would honor it, but it can certainly muck up the waters. So certainly something you'd want to think about it. But 2, the coverages. Coverage is pertinent to the situation and to the exposure at hand. And if it's a seismic shift of occupancy, you got to be on top of it because it could really leave you exposed. Let's say you have a secondary home anywhere. And you go, you know what? We want to make that into a revenue generating property. So we're going to do an Airbnb or a Vrbo with that one because, we're not there that often. So we can make money when we're not there. Have you talked to your insurance company or a carrier or agent to see if they accept short-term rentals of your primary or secondary or whatever residence? That's very important to be aware of because, again, you are exposing yourself to all kinds of loss that could potentially not be covered. Some people will go, well, Airbnb and Vrbo, they have their own insurance. So the second I'm signed up, I'm covered by them. Not necessarily.
Well, that goes back to our conversation last week, and unfortunately, we don't have more time to delve into the Airbnb part of it.
Right.
But if folks want it, you've got the archive. It's up on your YouTube and
it's
on
there.
Your social media page.
Yeah.
One other thing, and we can maybe even use this to tie into next week's chat because we do got to wrap it up here.
Yeah.
We were talking about that house that was raised in a foundation, and you talked about tools getting stolen.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say you are one of those builders and you don't have insurance on your generators and your tools. You want to have that conversation real quick with your insurance.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. There's easy ways to cover that stuff.
And the reason I did that is because folks are going to call and talk to you. So we touched on the very personal insurance with your own personal dwelling.
Yep.
But you guys also do business insurance.
We do.
Well.
So, and it's going to be 2 weeks because next week I have to go to D.C. to represent the state of Vermont for the insurance industry legislative conference for the week, which sounds really fun, but it's not. So I'll see you in 2 weeks. How's that?
All right. Tell them how to get in touch with Barrett Insurance.
Sure. Give us a call, 748-5224. You can find us on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury, online, thebarrettagency.com, Google, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, Barrett Insurance Agency.
Mike, always good to have you in
Nice
here.
to see you, sir.
You got a new cup.
Nah, just the clean one.
Okay. It's the Yeti Morning Club. We got Hillary Roberts now on Magic.